Whether you're single and you want to prep for marriage, or dating and you're really looking to take that next step of marriage, engaged and you're counting down the days, or you're married and you want to have a fresh start. This video is for you because in today's video, I'm going to walk through a pre-marriage checklist, 7 things here that you want to check off before you're looking to get married. And if you're already married, this can be a good refresher on getting things on track. The first 4 things are practical things that you want to get in place, and the last 3 are more character issues that you want to have in place. Before we jump in, as always, my name is Isaac and this is Men on Mission, where I equip you to lead and love like Jesus. If that's something that you're interested in, subscribe because I'm putting out new content all the time. I want to invite you guys to join us in our video calls, our weekly video calls as men on the Kindred Brothers Club on Patreon. You can join us on there. We do weekly video calls where we talk about our struggles, where we want to grow, and just hang out and have a fun time. It's on a weekly basis. Join us there. It would be a huge blessing to have you there. The first item of the checklist, and I encourage you guys to follow along, I'm including a checklist with all the scripture references on Patreon that you guys can print out and you can work through yourself. Look up the scripture references that I'm going to share with you here. But the first item on the checklist here is you need a job. Now, this is when people get nervous because I remember being in this exact same situation where I was single, probably 18, 19 years old. I was in school and I really wanted to date. And there were different people in my ears, saying that you could date even you're in school. And then other people would be like, well, you need to be more established before you should really get married. Now, I know a lot of different people have different paths. Like my dad, he got married to my mom when he was still in school. But at the same time, he was committed to working through the summers and getting a stipend when he was working through his PhD. So there are ways that he was still able to provide even while he was in school. That's something for you guys that are in school right now, that you're going to be in school for a little while longer. Maybe you've already met this girl, so okay, I'm going to get married. You need to know, okay, how am I still going to provide for this woman, regardless of my situation, whether I'm in school or not? Now, the question is, for those of you who have a job, you're asking, well, is my job good enough? Or what kind of job do I need to have? And this is where I want to alleviate some pressure for you, okay? The reality is that when you begin, especially when you get married early on, things are not going to be neat and tidy. That's not the goal, that you're going to be this millionaire or you're going to be making 6 figures every year. That's not the expectation. It doesn't have to be a great job. It just needs to do the job. But at the same time, if you know this is not a job I want to be at long term, or this job is tight, it's kind of paycheck to paycheck, you need to be asking yourself, am I being patient and complacent right now, or am I looking to the next thing? Am I still working and trying to develop skills so that I can take that next step to something that might be better for my family? 1 Timothy 5 verse 8 says, "But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, especially for members of his household, he is denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." For me, as a young guy, I was really interested in ministry, in social media ministry primarily, and that's what I'm doing now as my job. But at the time, I had to work other jobs as well, and that might be, a possibility in the future as well, because ministry cannot come over providing for your family, because your family is your primary ministry. So you might have lots of good desires and passions in your heart, and those are awesome things that you can do on the side if they don't make enough money for you to live and provide, right? But you need to have that stability so that your family can operate, so that they can grow, so that they don't have to be constantly stressed and worried about, what's coming next. I know some of you guys are in difficult situations. Maybe you lost your job, you're still looking for one. And honestly, the truth is that we can trust God through those things, and I want you to. And I want you to alleviate some of that pressure on yourself. If you're motivated and you're working towards getting to that next level or finding that job or whatever, that's a good thing. Just because you're not there yet doesn't mean that you're doing bad or you're doing something wrong, but continue to make that an intentional push. Number 2 on the checklist is you need a plan. You need a plan. Proverbs 6:3 says, "Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established." We need to commit what we're doing to the Lord. It's not just me laying out my days, my weeks, my months. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is our 5-year plan. This is our 10-year plan, without consulting God. No, I'm submitting this to Him, and I'm holding it in a sense with an open hand. God, if you want to change this, if you want to convict me of something, if you want to move in my life in some way, please do. But for right now, this is what we're doing. We prayed, we're discerning. This is where we're moving. We're moving into a place of glorifying you and how we're living our life. But if you want to change something specific about our life, please do. We give this to you. But here's a warning from Proverbs chapter 1. For the simple are killed by their turning away, and the complacency of fools destroys them. Are you complacent, or are you developing a vision and a plan for your life, and are you following through? Women want to see that you have some sort of plan, okay? As fun as it is to just kind of go by the seat of your pants and just, we're having adventures and we're being spontaneous and all that stuff is a lot of fun when you're dating. But also you invite a baby into the mix. A woman wants to know that you have a plan and where you're going and where you're taking the family, not just like in terms of your finances or your career, but in terms of how the spiritual development is going to happen in your family. What are devotions going to look like? Is there going to be family worship? Like what is your mentality going to be around? Like what's going to be your thing? Maybe that's hospitality. You're going to invite tons of people over every week or whatever. You're going to be hospitable. What is your vision? What is your plan? And can you map that out? Third thing on the checklist is you need brothers. In Proverbs 13, verse 20, it says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. We always hone in on that last part. The companion of fools will suffer harm. And that is true, right? If you walk with dumb people, with unwise people, you're going to suffer, right? Your character is going to suffer. But we also need to focus on that other part. If you walk with the wise, you'll become wise. So do you have those wise brothers in your life that you can walk with, that you can bear one another's burdens? I'm not saying this is easy. Like I think mine have shifted. They've definitely shifted over the last 5 to 10 years. Guys come in, come out. But at all times, you kind of want at least one close friend. And how do you do that? How do you develop a close friendship? You set the tone for the relationship. You begin to share more vulnerably and you see how they react. If they reciprocate with vulnerability, then you're developing a deeper relationship. Some guys, they'll just kind of receive that vulnerability and they'll talk about it or maybe give you some advice, but they won't be reciprocal in sharing and bearing one another's burdens. That's a nice friend. That's a compassionate friend, but it's not a guy that you can really connect with on a deep level. It's those guys that are curious, that have this transcendent curiosity. They're willing to ask questions that go beneath the surface. And that takes time because you can't and you shouldn't put all that weight on your future spouse to fill all those needs for you, all those friend needs, every conversation, every topic. Like you putting that on them, that's a lot of pressure and it's going to burn them out. Item number 4 on the checklist is savings. Now, I know if you're watching this video on the other side and things have been difficult for you, this is making you nervous. It's making you honestly want to turn off this video because you just think, I'm not there, Isaac. I don't know how I can get there. Maybe you're in debt, you got school loans, or just in general, you're at a tight job that it just doesn't feel possible to save anything. And I get that. I'm not trying to shame you at all or make you feel like less of a man in any possible way. I guess what I'd encourage you with, and take this with a grain of salt, right? I'm not in your position. I don't know your experience or your circumstance right now. Realize that the habits that you're building now, they matter, right? So even if you're just setting aside $10 a month, $10 a month somehow, you're sacrificing something in your life that you can set aside $10 a month, then do that, right? And that habit matters because if you give up now, if you say, well, it's just impossible, I can't do it, and you don't even begin to look at where you could possibly save something, then maybe you make a little bit more and you're just not going to make that effort. You're going to stay complacent. I just say savings are important because look, there's a wedding, right? There's a ring. There's a marriage that you got to pay for. Like these things are not inexpensive and you can be budget friendly with them. And I know a lot of people that got married very young and they didn't have a lot of finances. So, the ring was inexpensive and the wedding was very inexpensive and the marriage is inexpensive. But at the end of the day, it's going to give you a lot more just peace and stability practically to have a little bit of a buffer. It doesn't have to be huge, but it's just general wisdom to have that kind of thing. So then you're not putting the pressure on her too. When you are married, constantly nagging her about different things that, we got to save here, we got to save here. It just feels like a lot of pressure for an early marriage. And you can try to alleviate some of that by having some savings. The 5th item on the checklist is a little bit hard to explain. So let me read this verse for you. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God and take every thought captive to obey Christ. It's that second half that I want to focus on. And take every thought captive to obey Christ. The fifth item here is discipline of the mind. When we talk about taking thoughts captive, this can apply to a lot of different areas, but primarily two I'm going to focus on. Purity. So taking thoughts captive in terms of lustful thoughts that are coming into your mind. Are you letting those things fester? Are you dwelling on them? Are you fantasizing about them? Or are you taking it captive and pushing that away, or dealing with that, or seeing the lie in that? And the second thing is insecurities or overthinking within a relationship. Are we taking those thoughts? Oh man, I suck, or I'm not man enough, or I can't do this, or I can't be courageous, or whatever, these kind of self-condemning thoughts. Are we going to take those captive so then we don't let them persist and cause us to be passive or scared or fearful within our relationship, so that we can actually man up and be the man of God that our woman needs and God wants us to be? Taking every thought captive is really as simple as thinking about the thought that you just received, right? The thought came in, maybe it was an intrusive thought or whatever else, and we just step outside and we say, okay, what is the truth about this thought? Is this thought, right, pure, good, worthy of praise, something that I want to dwell on? Or is it a lie? Is it something that's saying that, I have the right to look at this woman's body? Or how awesome would it be if I could have sex with this woman? Okay, whoa, what's the lie that's going on there? That I deserve this, or I need this, or this is somehow good for me, or this is God's design for sexuality, or instant gratification is what matters. See the lie in that thought. And then when it comes to insecurities, it's, when it's these condemning thoughts, where is the lie there? No, wait a minute. No, God has equipped me and empowered me by his Spirit to walk in the Spirit so that I can actually be a man of God, that I can lead and love like Jesus. Quick thing before we get back into the video, if you struggle with online lust, and I know there are plenty of guys that are watching this right now, that is you, okay? And you've heard me say this before, you've heard me talk about covenant eyes, but you've never actually done anything because maybe you're downplaying how much you're really tempted or how much you use pornography or whatever else. I would just say, hey, you know what? Maybe you're not addicted, but this is a very good accountability measure that you can put up. So then it's not an issue for you, okay? Maybe you're not down the road of watching it every day, but this is something that a wise man can do in order to prevent himself from stumbling, from accidentally making that mistake of feeling too highly of himself, and in so doing, stepping into the sin that he thought he overcame. It's 30 days free. It's an accountability software. It will help you. Sign up in the link in my description. It's an affiliate link, so by signing up, you also help out the ministry as well. Number 6 on the checklist is ready to sacrifice. Are you ready to sacrifice? This is what it says in Ephesians 5, verse 25. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. It's pretty easy to go into marriage or relationship thinking about all the things that you can get. Oh man, this person is so pretty, or this person is so attractive, or I like the, how it feels for them to be on my arm, or I like the expectation that, okay, yeah, we're going to have sex and our sex life is going to be so great. And you have these expectations. They're going to fulfill me. They're going to give me love. They're going to give me companionship. They're going to fill the insecurities that I feel in my heart. Like all these things, right? All these expectations. But the question you need to be asking yourself is, am I ready to sacrifice? Am I ready to sacrifice any of these things? Now, if I'm honest, the idea of laying my life down for my wife feels very heroic and very attractive. Like, yeah, I would absolutely give my life for my wife if I, pushed her out of the way of a car or something like that, something heroic, right? But the idea of just like compromising my own needs in my daily life, in my marriage, that's a lot harder. This is kind of like a dumb example, but the other day I was working in the office all day and my wife was out and she came home. She was tired and I was really anxious and restless to get outside and go for a walk. Well, she had already been out all day and she was just looking to have some quality time on the couch, maybe playing a video game on her Switch. And I felt like, man, that's not what I want to do. Like I really want to go outside. In that moment, I had a decision. I could either go do what I wanted to do, and I really felt like I needed this, or I could do what my wife needed in that moment. And I didn't do that right because we even sat down, was starting to play the video game. She was opening up to me, whatever else. But she could tell I was still kind of like frustrated because I still had my desires in the back of my mind that I wasn't getting to do. This takes us to number 7 on the checklist. It's humility to lead. Humility to lead. You often don't think of those things in connection. Humility to lead? Like, what do you mean? You don't need humility to lead. Well, actually you do. And here's the reason, is because what keeps us from leading? What keeps us from, taking charge and being a man? Well, yeah, there's some men that are very prideful and full of themselves and boastful, and they have no problem taking control. They're control freaks. But then there's other guys that they don't want to take control. They don't want to lead because why? They might make a mistake. They don't want to lead because they don't want to lead in the wrong direction. They don't want to say something wrong. They don't want to make a decision that's going to be faulty. So what do? They defer. They defer. Why? Because of fear, because of pride, because I don't want to be exposed for, my failings. Because when you are put in a place of leadership, you are being exposed because you're constantly called upon to be responsible for your family, for these decisions that need to be made that you don't know if it's going to turn out right. So what do we need? We need humility. We need God to humble us to say, you know what, God, I'm going to be a vessel for you in my marriage. I'm going to be the leader. And even when I make a mistake, I'm going to be humble about it. And I'm going to admit my failings. And that's the hardest part for me, honestly. It's, can I humble myself to take responsibility and to know that, you know what, I might fail here and it's not going to be the end of the world. I can confess. I can say, hey, I screwed up. I made the wrong decision, or I did the wrong thing, or I said the wrong thing. Can you forgive me? And be humble in that way is so essential. I want to hear from you guys. What is something that you would add to this list? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, keep pursuing the mission.